I want to get Senator James Lankford's opinion, member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee and Finance Committee out of Oklahoma, of course. Senator, welcome back.
Always great to be with you, Brian.
Senator, you missed it, but Jennifer Griffin just read the Pentagon's pushback on the Milley story. But from what you know, and are you familiar with the story, first off?
Well, loosely familiar with it just because we're getting bits and pieces of everything at this point.
So what I can tell you is this. They're accusing him of making 2 calls to China, essentially saying, I'll give you a warning if we were going to attack you. I got things under control, without telling the President of the United States.
Yeah, there's one of several stories that are out there. You're right. The journalists come out and be able to come clean to be able to say what happened, what didn't happen, and all the different process issues. President Trump has been very, very clear that he feels like he was undercut multiple times by Milley. And at this point, we've got to have somebody there that is more worried about trying to be able to take on our enemies and their white rage in the military. And so at this point, there's a lot of questions that are going to come out. He's going to come in front of committees there. He's going to answer those questions. And then once he's a civilian, he'll be able to answer even more.
I want you to hear what Marco Rubio said last night. Cut 21.
Imagine if tomorrow General Milley decides, I think Joe Biden is senile. And so you know what? I'm not going to follow his orders. I'm going to collude with Russia and China to prevent us from acting. Or a future president. I don't think he's in his right mind either, because it is the essence, a military coup, for lack of a better term. That's what it would equate to.
If he didn't do it, I don't think we wait to get questioned. Last time when he was asked about the Washington Post book, Philip Rucker's book, he said, I'm not here to sell a book or verify or anything, talk about somebody's book. He doesn't have that option now. Don't you agree?
He does not have that option. Yeah, he's got to be able to come clean on all of this. And this becomes a decision, as Marco Rubio was saying there, we have civilian leadership of our military. The military can decide, I'm just not going to do this, or undercut civilian leadership regardless. And so that is the nature of our republic, is to be able to make sure that we have civilian leadership. And that leadership has to lead and has to know that the people under them are following their orders.
So we understand, too, that General Milley recommended and told President Biden some of the scenarios that could take place if we pulled out when he wanted to pull out. He wanted 4,000 troops reportedly, and Joe Biden says you got 600. He goes, well, if you give me 600, I can't hold Bagram. Then they turn around and say, well, the Defense Department told me they can't hold Bagram. Excuse me.
Right.
Unwind this, Senator. Tell me practical. I know we have civilian leadership, but they are not military experts. And now we're all paying the price. And we've been humiliated on the global stage, and we now have a terror state where we once paid, which we occupied for 20 years.
So there was an agenda set for how to be able to depart from Afghanistan, and they were following the calendar rather than following the situation on the ground. When they got to each stage, even though the Taliban were accelerating to the next town, and taking over, they were just continuing to be able to follow the next plan on it rather than look at the situation on the ground. So that is a major mistake. I understand that they can lay out an agenda from the military side, and that civilian leadership can look at it and say, these are the decisions that I want to be able to make. But someone should have been coming back to the White House, and I'm confident that they did, and said, here's the situation on the ground. And someone somewhere was saying, nope, keep following the calendar rather and just ignore what was actually going on. So that's part of the questions that we've got to get. If that's Milley, if that's other folks in the Joint Chiefs that were saying just ignore what's actually happening on the ground, they need to be held to account. If it's the President of the United States that was late in making a decision or wouldn't make a decision or said just follow the calendar and the plan regardless of what's going on, the American people need to know that as well. But the facts have got to come out, because there were enormous mistakes made in this when they form a plan and then run a plan regardless of what's actually happening on the ground.
Senator, as a Republican, this is a political question. What do you take from Gavin Newsom's successful recall election?
I take that it's a reminder, again, of just how left-leaning California really is, that they can look at a situation like Gavin Newsom's doing to the state, rolling blackouts, all the major problems that they're having, all the issues they're having with business, the high cost, the high taxes, and then the craziness of all of how he handled COVID-19, and to say that state's just as left as we all thought that state was.
So he keeps it. I mean, does Larry Elder's success tell you anything? Does the fact that they said he is a clone of Donald Trump and that they want to run against Donald Trump, who's not even able to tweet anymore, what does that tell you as for a political strategy?
Yeah, as a political strategy, obviously the far left is still just as obsessed with Trump derangement syndrome, that they're just every single day looking for President Trump behind every single thing, that they're still terrified of him. And so that's what that reminds me of, again, that they are still afraid of his leadership. They're afraid of his plan. They're afraid of his policies. And they're going to continue to find every way they can to be able to try to drive him out, to be able to make sure he can't speak in anymore to what's happening in the country.
So talk about the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. They're still putting that forward, even though Joe Manchin says I won't sign off on it. Kirsten Sinema did a spreadsheet on everything that she would and wouldn't pay for. So they're not even asking for Republican input. They're going to do it on simple 51 Democratic senators. What do you hear is going to happen there?
Well, what's interesting is I hear what's going to happen. That is a different plan from different people that can't all be the same. So the House Ways and Means Committee is putting forward their plan. Everyone's saying, well, this is the plan. But the problem is the Rules Committee in the House is saying, actually, we're going to adjust that plan once it comes to us. And the Finance Committee, the Democrats there, are saying, well, actually, we're going to have a different plan as well. Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are saying, actually, there's a different plan. And Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are saying, actually, there's a different plan. So right now it's train wreck because Democrats are all coming every which direction and trying to figure out what they're going to try to do with this. They're all seeing this as their moment in history that we can get everything we ever dreamed, we ever wanted, every entitlement, every new tax increase, every new piece, but realizing that every Democrat in the Senate is a kingmaker here. If any one of them says, no, that's not the plan, or if any 4 Democrats in the House decide, no, that's not the plan, it doesn't happen.
So we understand President Biden's going to meet with Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema today, and we thought the mega bill was going to be written by today. Next week, on the 27th, I understand you're going to vote on the bipartisan bill. Are you going to vote for that bill? They say 19 Republicans are for this infrastructure bill with $550 billion of new money.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote for it a second time. I didn't vote for it a first time. Didn't support it all the way through because I could see what this is. This is not an infrastructure bill. This is a big liberal bill that they put an infrastructure bill into. It has $500 billion in new debt in it. It has the seeds for the Green New Deal in it. It has all kinds of problems and issues that are within this bill. So, no, I absolutely will not support this bill. I've supported other infrastructure bills in the past because they've actually been focused on infrastructure. This one just has infrastructure in a larger liberal bill.
So are the Senator Portman, Senator Cassidy being duped?
They are making their own decision on what direction that they want to go. I can just tell you when I look at the facts on the ground and I try to be able to pull out the actual cost, how it's being paid for and not paid for, what this means to the future of how we handle infrastructure, and what this means to the future of our country's debt. There's no way I can support this.
All right, so the debt limit extension, it looks like Senator McConnell's not budging. He says, I'm ready to raise the debt limit. Is this going to shut down the government?
Well, it's 2 separate issues there. The government shutdown is actually coming September the 30th. If Democrats don't pull together some sort of short-term funding resolution to be able to move the funding for the government, we'll have another government shutdown. The Senate has not taken up a single appropriation bill. There's 12 of them. Not even one of them has been through committee. They've not even tried. So that's the remarkable part about this, is you look at it and go, Chuck Schumer's team has not even tried to do anything on budget related, not even tried to have any conversations across the aisle on it. So they're stuck in that. Then the second part about this is the debt ceiling. That'll be sometime in October. We've made it very clear. Democrats did a $2 trillion COVID bill that was a straight partisan bill that was not even COVID related in March. They're doing a $3.5 trillion new entitlement spending. We're not going to help them do all that additional spending. When it gets to the debt ceiling, I've been very clear from the very beginning when I came in, we have to be able to deal with debt issues. You can't solve it all in 1 year, but you can start a plan to be able to get out of it. They're not even trying to be able to get out of debt at this point. They're just trying to add more to it and to keep accelerating. So they should not count on Republicans trying to be able to help them pay for what they're actually pulling off to the country. And 47 of us in the Senate, the 47 Republicans have all said, we're not going to support a debt ceiling increase. Democrats put us into this mess. They can actually take care of this mess themselves.
So you're reintroducing the Prevent Government Shutdown bill. Can you tell us what that is?
I can, actually. This is one several years ago that I actually worked with a Democrat senator to say, how do we end government shutdowns? Because government shutdowns actually cost money. They cause chaos. They cause the American people to have trouble actually getting permitting and licensing and contact with federal agencies. And federal employees get paid all the way through, whether they're working or not. So it actually loses money and just a nuisance to the country. So we put together a very simple proposal 3 years ago. We continue to be able to gain momentum on it. It just gets to the heart of the issue. If September 30th comes and goes, the end of the fiscal year, we don't have the appropriation bills done, you automatically continue at last year's level. But members of Congress and our staff cannot travel. We're actually in D.C., and we have to stay there until all 12 appropriation bills are done. This is the equivalent of when my brother and I got into a fight when we were kids, shockingly enough. My mom would throw us into the same room and would say, you guys can come out once you settle this. This is the legislative equivalent of that, to say Congress has to stay in continuous session 7 days a week until they actually solve the problem. They can't leave until that's actually done. Right now, what we'll see is we'll get to the end of the fiscal year and people will say, well, let's leave for the weekend and then we'll come back next week, or we'll take a week away from D.C. and we'll come back. and the shutdown just continues and the chaos continues. If Congress has to stay in continuous session until it gets solved, it'll actually get solved.
The Secretary Mayorkas just lost his chief of staff. He just resigned, maybe because of this. We don't know the details yet. Is there any chance that the American people, that the border towns in Texas, in New Mexico, as well as Arizona, are going to rise up and demand he do something, as people in busloads and plane loads are being dropped all around the country? The chief of staff, her name is Karen Olick, with Homeland Security. She said, we are grateful for Karen for the service during this critical 9 months, but she's resigning for a reason. What's going on here?
Yeah, right now what's happening is Homeland Security can't get their act together. They honestly thought we could take down the Trump policies, put in our policies, and just tell people nicely not to cross the border, and people wouldn't cross the border illegally. They're finding out that doesn't work. There's a reason those Trump policies did work. There's a reason their policies do not. We have record numbers of crossing every single month since March, and it continues to accelerate with record numbers. In the meantime, federal courts have stepped in and have instructed Homeland Security that they have to reinstate parts of the Trump policy. The Remain in Mexico policy has to be put back into place. I have already been on the phone back and forth with Secretary Mayorkas saying, all right, I need a plan for when you're going to reinstate this. The federal courts have instructed you to do that. They have to do it. He has said, we're working on that. We are going to reinstate that and follow the federal court order. And so we're providing accountability to make sure that actually occurs. And then we're continuing to be able to press in every single area to make sure that the American people don't lose track of this, because the national media has just stopped talking about the border crisis, and everyone just assumes, oh, it's getting better. It's not getting better. It continues to get worse and worse.
No question. It's not getting better. Senator James Lankford, thanks so much. You're a busy guy.
Well, there's a lot going on right now. Thanks for staying on top of it, Brian.
You got it, Senator. Thanks for coming on.